Prime Minister, you've had a successful visit to Japan, deepening our security ties with that country through the agreements and talks with Prime Minister Suga. You must be distressed about the inflamed rhetoric from China now, saying that if you make China an enemy, then you will be an enemy of China. They've accused Australia of sticking its nose in and interfering in Chinese affairs. But what can you do to try and reset that relationship with Beijing?
Well, I've seen those reports of the document that had come from the Chinese embassy here in Australia. I think I'd make a couple of observations. First of all, Australia is not seeking to make an enemy of any country. Least of all, I'd say China. We've got a comprehensive strategic partnership with them. Our trade with them is that while there are tensions in a number of particular areas currently, it is still at very high levels, record levels, over almost $170 billion a year, and those volumes and others are increasing. So it's in the mutual interest of both countries to continue to successfully pursue this relationship. But I would note, given the tensions that people are very well aware of, that if that is the source of tension that is being raised, then these are matters that go to Australia's national sovereignty. And it's not clear to me, those who would seek some improvement in the relationship in Australia, how that would be achieved and what that would mean if it would mean compromising on these clear areas of national sovereignty. Now, of course, we're not going to do that. I think one of the other problems is, Chris, is that Australia is often seen in this relationship through the prism of the strategic competition between China and the United States. And what that fails to respect and understand is that Australia makes its own decisions in its own interests. We don't set our national laws to please the United States or China or any other country. We do it in our own national interests, and the suggestion that Australia might be taking particular positions, whether it be trying to honestly understand how a pandemic started and how that has led to what has happened all around the world, and seeking the cooperation of countries all around the world, the positions we would take on human rights issues in concert with other countries, how we would seek to build our communications networks, or indeed what we would do to ensure that investment in Australia is done on our terms in accordance with our interests on foreign investment, and indeed a free press and a free and liberal and open democracy where elected members of parliament can speak their mind. I mean, these are things that are fundamental to who we are as a country. And if that is the cause of tension with China, then clearly Australia being Australia cannot be considered a point of tension.
Absolutely. I think all thinking Australians would support you standing up for Australia's interests and Australia's values, but nonetheless the relationship desperately needs a reset. Would you jump onto a plane to Beijing if Xi Jinping would agree to meet with you and try and reset the relationship?
Well, we're always open for that dialogue. We have not prevented such dialogue. We've been open for that dialogue consistently. And so the obstacle to such a conversation is not with Australia. But if the conversation only comes at the price of Australia having to compromise on our clear national sovereign interests in the 14 areas that are noted in that unofficial document, then of course Australians would never agree with that, neither would I, Chris. And I think in one way, this document, I suppose for those who are rightly genuinely concerned about tensions in such an important relationship, I think it provides some interesting perspective. That it's not about whether people are sitting down and having a cup of tea and a chat. This is not what is in that 14 points. Those issues go to something far more fundamental and over a much longer period of time. But that really is for our partners in China, I think, to clarify what those points are that have been made unofficially reportedly through the Chinese embassy. So look, I'll continue to be patient about this, but there's never been an obstacle for Australia to have a fair income conversation about these things directly between ministers and indeed between leaders. We'd be happy to do so.